case of his favorite barley hops, for he's calling me an expert, but I'm definitely a fan. I'm not anywhere near an expert. But fair enough. I'll take it when I can get it.
Well, I don't want to diminish or take away from the Twins so far. But it's an interesting. As you guys know, the talk about the sort of so-called collusion to keep the players down makes me upset. I think that's total hogwash, and this is part of it, right? And the Kimbrel and Keuchel deals are not a lack thereof. It was all related, and I thought it was an interesting part of the discussion. All right, so for the next segment of the show, Mike Burgoyne is going to give us a scouting report on Alexander Madison, the Vikings' third round, 39th overall pick. Of course, the running back out of Boise State, 5'11", 221. No, Vikings had their draft. They drafted a bunch of guys. It's been well established by me and Lonnie for sure. I don't know about Tony, but on this show and other places that draft analysis is about the dumbest thing I think going. But and I do absolutely think that all draft analysis and commentary needs to be accompanied with a disclosure stating whether or not the author of said analysis has ever watched the players they're analyzing in person with their actual eyeballs. And frankly, that disclosure should also include whether the reasons why said person is qualified to comment on that person, that player's abilities. But you guys got Mike, you got anything to say about the Vikings draft after that lead in?
Nice tee up.
No, I'll just not say much. No, I'm glad they at least, whether the guys are going to turn out well or not, I'm at least glad they got some of the positions I think they needed help with.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was kind of bummed. Honestly, out of the whole thing, I was kind of bummed that we didn't end up getting Blake Cashman, because I think I'm a big fan of his, just being a Gopher fan. And Spielman made a comment that there was a guy that they were targeting and weren't able to move up and get, and I have a feeling it was probably Cashman.
One of the Gopher beat writers basically said that, and I think Ron Johnson kind of echoed it. The Gopher beat writer might have took it from him, but basically said that the guy that the Vikings drafted right after Cashman, so they traded back and then drafted, is basically Blake Cashman, just from Stanford. So he thinks that they were absolutely targeting Cashman, and then once Cashman wasn't there, that's why they traded back. And I heard Spielman stuff too, and I thought the exact same thing. So yeah.
Okay, great. That was fun. We're talking about baseball. All right, let's. All right, guys. I'm gonna put you on the spot here. The Game 7 call in the third period, San Jose, Vegas, 5-minute major for the injured Pavelski. Mike, good call or a bad call? And how do you size up the situation there?
I thought it was brutal. I don't know if the refs just didn't fully see it, or they just kind of saw Pavelski bleeding from his face and were like, oh, we have to call this. But it's absolutely, so in the regular season, there's way more cross-checking penalties that go uncalled than that. The cross-check was like a push to his chest.
Yeah.
It wasn't even straight in his face.
Right.
Would Stahl get cross-checked right in the face?
Yeah.
Was it last year? And I don't even remember if the other guy got a penalty on the initial play.
Yeah.
He didn't, and then the refs held it against the Wild all season. So the two that were there, basically, like, Boudreaux was beat red the whole game every time those guys were on the ice.
Game 7 of the playoffs, I don't know how you blow a call that bad.
Now, Tony, I completely agree, by the way, Mike. I 100% agree. That in first place, does that get called a major if the game's in Vegas? Same exact play? Absolutely not.
Right.
Does that call get called a major if it's not 3-0 Vegas at that point in the game? Absolutely not. It's just a terrible, terrible, terrible bad call. Tony, the other side of the argument though is, okay, fine, they blew the call, but you still got to not allow 4 goals in that power play. What are your thoughts on that?
That's fair. However, it doesn't change the fact that they blew the call. You know, like it's 100% fair, but the call is what changed the game, not the fact they didn't. Not the fact they didn't. That they gave up 4 goals in the power play. Because here's the other piece of it. Like, and Russo alluded to it on the show that I think came out on Sunday. Like, Fortin helps carry Pavelski off, yells at the bench, you know, let's go, score 3 goals on the. I mean, I'm sure it was more colorful than that, right?
Yeah.
And after Couture scores the first one, he does exactly the same thing, right? So it ended up being the snowball that got kicked down the mountain and nobody could freaking stop it. You know, so I don't necessarily blame Vegas for not being able to kill the penalty because they're basically like, I mean, they're shell shocked at that point. Like, what the hell is going on here? You know, like our buddy just got ejected for nothing. And yes, Pavelski was bleeding out of his bucket, but at the end of the day, like it's just an unfortunate thing. And these poor guys got to try and stop this snowball that's coming. And it's easier said than done. Like it's real easy for us to. And I'm sorry, Lonnie's not here to defend the refs because he is one, and you know they probably deserve a stake in this argument because I don't think the 3 of us are going to give him much rope on it. But it's one of those things where you can't make that call in that spot, and I don't think the Knights for sure once 2 were scored, it was screwed. Like I was watching it, and they were toast. After the second goal, it was like, oh boy, here we go, buckle up. It felt like I was watching the Wild in a big spot. Like literally, I mean, so I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, my point was the call of a major absolutely matters.
Yes.
If it was the right call, I mean, even calling the rule book still way too touchy. Let's say they give him a double minor because Pavelski was bleeding. They instead of calling it cross check, they call it high stick and they give him a double minor, right?
Yeah.
Still a wrong call in that case, but a better call than a major. In that case, then the worst case scenario is for Vegas is San Jose scores on both power plays, and now it's a 3-2 game Vegas lead, right? I mean, so the only reason
it's easier to stop the avalanche coming down, right? It's
right,
easier to stop the snowball because they get 5-on-5, and now okay, take a deep breath, use your timeout. All right, boys, buckle up. You know.
Yeah. So
you can't do that.
The fact they called it a major means the call absolutely mattered.
Yeah.
Yes, their power and then I mean to the point of the actual power play. I mean that was as close to literally unstoppable for a 5-minute period as I've ever seen any team ever in my life watching hockey. I mean, you know whether or not there should have been a 5-minute major, that they were not. I mean, like you said, like Vegas was not going to be able to stop them. I mean, thank God it was only a 5-minute major. If it had been a 7-minute major, it might have been 8-3.
Easy. It was awful.
So Vegas still, to coin a phrase, Vegas to this point in their existence still playing with house money, right? I mean, get to the finals, make the playoffs the next year. They've got a great fan base, whatever, blah blah blah. So, but the other thing that I've seen on Twitter, and I think Jim alluded to it on the Russo show this weekend, but you know, I mean, people like, oh well, all these upsets in the first round, boy, this is the Wild could just sneak in, maybe us too. No, stop being an idiot. People who think that aren't paying attention. Like that's the Wild against any of these teams that got upset. Let's not delude ourselves into thinking that we're closer than we are, and then have that short circuit this opportunity to really, you know, take the step back to dig a stronger or lay a stronger foundation here, right, Mike?
Yeah, I mean those people are just grasping for straws and trying to make themselves feel better. Watching the playoffs, the Wild are so far away, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
I mean,
especially the roster as it sits now, no?
Yeah, I mean, the roster as it sits now really is worse
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whether it's going to be worse in the future, time will tell. But right now, it's absolutely worse than it was.
Oh,
I got
yeah.
a question for both of you. So, looking at these playoff rosters, what I see is guys like Couture that have kind of had deep runs. Who's the Carolina guy that had he's like Mr. Game 7?
Williams, Justin
Williams.
Williams.
Yeah. You have guys like that. Who do the Wild have that's like that? Parese's the only one that's been on a deep run.
Yeah.
Who else do they have? Like, they don't have a grit, heart, and soul guy that's going to do that for you in a playoff series.
Not a guy who can make any difference anyway.
Right. So, I mean, don't we got to find that? Maybe Connon's that guy eventually. Unfortunately, yeah.
I mean, yeah, but that would mean I always got to actually finish. I mean, knock off Milwaukee tomorrow night and then go on a deeper. No, I mean, you make a good point. No, we're just not there. I mean, it's just not. And then what I worry about is Parise's sort of veiled threat about I don't want to go through a rebuild. I worry that that's going to impact, and then Leopold saying I absolutely don't want to miss the playoffs again. I worry that's going to short circuit Fenton's. Well, I was going to say Fenton's plan, but that would assume that he has one. Fenton's whatever the hell he's doing, and mean that we're not going to do the retrench to the extent that we probably should and have an opportunity to do now more than we've ever had. Well, than we've had in many years. I mean, you sign the Pareses, they have a contract. You get, I mean, I realize Fenton inherited that, but that is the hand he's dealt. And obviously, Parese is probably a more equal pig. So I guess that's just the way it goes, right? But when we start signing, we start signing a Pavelski this summer. I'm not going to be super happy about that. I don't want the short-term sugar high for another 30-odd-year-old guy now with a couple of head injuries on board this season alone and all the other stuff going on. I don't want that. I would rather see some of these, these three kids who went down to Iowa come back next season and have a more prominent role, even if it means growing pains and win-loss column while we build around that, and then make the old guys the third and fourth liners where they Parese could be on the one of the great third lines in the league from the way he works his butt off. But I realize that's not going to happen. That's a pipe dream, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I would rather have. And so it's going to be frustrating for me when we do something different.
I agree 100%. I think Leopold is part of the problem.
Agree.
They need to just let it be and just build it the right way. And they just refuse to allow that to happen. So they're going to continue to try and Band-Aid stuff together.
Yeah.
And it's just going to result in having to start all over again at some point.
Right.
And unfortunately, I do think, until Suter and Parise's contracts are done, I don't think we're going to go that far. And it's not because I don't think they're good players. And it's not really as much on Parise. There's clearly a locker room problem, and I think Suter is at the head of it.
Yeah.
And I don't.
I question their leadership more than anything. I don't necessarily question Parise's because he's been there, done that. But Suter acts like he's been there, done that, and really has he?
No. No.
Right. So that's my concern with the whole deal. And I was going to ask you guys this question: is like, I feel like I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel with the way that their roster is set up right now, because I see the leadership not changing. And then I ask the question, well, then what's going to change? So I see this downfall, and it's like, oh, what the hell? I just don't see anything being different in the next 3 years. Maybe when Kaprizov get here, it's different. But, I kind of feel like it's a pretty low point in the franchise. And I almost wonder if we're not going towards the lowest point of the franchise. And I'd wonder, like, your guys' take on that part of it.
Well, I'm just looking at the upcoming UFAs. and secondarily screening for shots. I'm looking at right-handed forward